Welcome back to Garage Biljon. Today we are going to be working on the GT3. It's a problem that I've been having with it for probably since I've bought it. What happens is every time I go hard on the brakes, or if I do a power slide and I come to a standstill, I find that it's difficult to disengage the gears. It seems to me like the most feasible answer to my problem is that somewhere down there's a gearbox mount that is a bit weaker than it used to be from factory, and somewhere back there are two motor mounts that might also be a bit weaker than they should be. So I've ordered the parts, and today's the day that I'm going to tackle this job. I'm hoping it's not going to be too difficult because I don't feel like doing a difficult job today, I guess. But anyway, we're going to give it a go, and join me as I'm going to collect the parts and start working on the car. I have a stash of parts in my garage from all kinds of things. You can see the flywheel from the GT3, that's still the dual mass flywheel. But right in front of us, these are the new motor mounts for the GT3. I've pushed them around a bit. They are very, very stiff, so that's a good thing. I've got two of these, so let me go and put them down at the back of the car. And then we are also going to dig into the cupboard for some more things, and right on top of the coffin arms for the GT3 you'll see the new gearbox mount. So this is a upgraded gearbox mount. This is the gearbox mount for the 997. You'll see if I zoom into this a little bit, you will see right down there, that's a 997 part number. I'm not 100% sure what's been updated on this. I probably should have done some more research, but I believe that the rubbers you are looking at now is stronger and stiffer. So I'm hoping that by replacing this mount and those two mounts back there, that I'll get this GT3 to be a bit more predictable on the road and hopefully shift a little bit better. Anyway, I'm going to get my jacks. You can see them hanging on the wall there. I'm going to get them installed, and you'll join me when I start lifting the car off the ground. Right, she's on the lift, and the next job is making sure all the bolts back there are going to loosen up when I want them to. So for that I'm going to use some of my favorite oil, WD-40. I used to only ever buy the regular stuff, but since they brought out the specialist range, I've been trying this out. So yeah, I'll let you know how this goes. Right, so it took me a while to get the gearbox cover off, but as you can see over here, this is the gearbox mount. So what I need to do now is get a jack to go somewhere there to hold up the gearbox. I have found a way of securing the gearbox with a bottle jack, which I'll show you in a couple of seconds. What I wanted to show you is what I believe you'll need to remove that gearbox mount. So this is just an extension, a socket set, and a 15mm and a 16mm. These should be sufficient for me to remove that whole mount and all the things around it. So yeah, you'll join me underneath the car, and let's see if we can make this work. Okay, so this is the solution I came up with. What I've done is I've put the little stool underneath there with a bottle jack on top of that, underneath the gearbox. And all I need to do is just take the weight off the gearbox for me to be able to remove the bolts that are there and up there, somewhere in there, somewhere. And back here, there's a carrier. The gearbox is not all that heavy, especially not at the front there. So I think this will be a perfect solution. So you guys join me now with this gearbox mount all loosened up, so all my bolts are loose. I read on a forum that this little metal bracket needs to come off as well, and in all my wisdom I thought, no, I know better, it doesn't have to come off. But as you can see, this round thing here is fouling this round edge here, so I have no choice but to loosen those 4 bolts and take down this metal holder as well. Finally, she's out on the bench. So this is the new one, this is the old one, and if I zoom in for you guys there, it's upside down, but you can see it says 996 instead of this one's 997. So as I was removing it, I was thinking, you know what, probably this thing was fine and I didn't have to do anything to it, but if you look closely, you can see it's broken. So this tells you that you can never really tell if this is broken unless you have it on the bench. So good call on my part. This was definitely busted, so I'm sure that this new guy will make the handling a lot better. So the new gearbox mount is in its spot. As you can see, it's hanging off the threads there. What I need to do now is get some Loctite and get these big bolts in on the sides first. Once that is done, I can get the top mounts and then pull it up, and then I can attach the plate that is back here again onto these holes on these sides. I have done up these bolts. I added a little bit of Loctite to them as I saw that they had Loctite when I took them out. The next job I have to do, and if you look in here, you can see I need to bring this mount all the way up to where this gap is, where there should be no gap here. So what I'm going to do, I still have my bottle jack on the gearbox. I'm now going to jack up the gearbox and try and close that gap over there. And we're jacking, as you can see, and I am managing to close that gap, which is quite good. And then I am now getting some resistance. So next job is getting those bolts back on. So this bolt is now on both sides. I don't know if you can see that one, but it's there. They are both on. The gearbox is now in the spot where it belongs, and you can see the new mount sitting there. So this bottle jack can now come off. Let's try that. Okay, right, let's see if we can get this to come down. There we go. She's now hanging in the gearbox mount. The last job is to get the bracket back up onto these 4 studs and attach to this mount. Okay, just doing up the last bolt, and then I need to go and get my torque wrench, and then I can get all of these bolts torqued to the right spec. But there we go. So this one is now also in. So there we go. That's the new gearbox mount, and that bolt's on, that bolt's on, that bolt's on, and these 4 bolts are on as well, all of them with a little bit of Loctite to make sure that they don't go anywhere. I've given these covers a quick wash because I wouldn't be me if I didn't do that. So they are looking nice and fresh. So while I let these guys dry in the little bit of sun I have today, I am going to now continue on those motor mounts. So let me show you what is going to happen. This motor mount and the one on this side has to come out. I've got the new ones on the floor. First thing I'm going to do is at the bottom of the motor mount there's a single stud. I've already sprayed them with penetrating fluid, and then we should loosen those up first. I want to see if they crack loose. What I've bought is this extra long socket, 18 millimeters, and I'm expecting that this will allow me to go over the stud and get to the nut. A normal socket is too short. So remember that if you're going to do this job yourself. Okay, so if we look up there, that is the nut I have to loosen. I've got this extension that I hope, yeah, that just goes on there. So I'll first try and loosen this nut. Right, so in order for me to remove these engine mounts, I need to be able to lift the engine just ever so slightly to take the tension off those bolts. Now, a lot of people say that you can hold the engine over here. I'm not a fan of that, as this is an aluminium casing. It's obviously split in that area. So what I'm going to do is, over here there is a steel brace, and if we follow this brace, you will see that eventually it ends up at the engine mount. So my theory is, sorry for the shaky camera, is that if I put the bottle jack right in the middle of this brace, I should have balance in the engine, and I should be able to just take the pressure off the engine mounts that way. So let's show you if that works. Okay, so the bottom was a bit of a fight. I had to use a breaker bar on this side. The other side was actually fine, and it came loose quite easily. And I'm now just loosening that last back screw, and once that's loosened, I can pull out the mount. Okay, so now both bolts are loose, and now it should be a matter of just pulling this out. It should not be too difficult. And yep, here she comes. Here she comes. One tied engine mount. Now let's go to the workbench and see if there's a difference. Okay, so that's the new one. That's the old one. And as you can see, if I put my finger here, there's only like half a finger's worth of rubber sticking out of this mount. If I put my finger there, it's almost a full finger. So, as I thought, this mount is also shot. Now it looks like the other side might be a new mount, but we'll see when we pull it out. Okay, new mount is in. I've put some thread locker on the new bolts, and now it's just a matter of tightening them up, and then we'll do the bottom. Tightening up the last bolt, and then this one's in. Okay, so the new bolt is on the new engine mount, and now it's just a matter of torquing it up. The torque spec for this bolt is 85 Newton meters. Okay, so next the engine mount's in as well. Both of them are tied up. They've got Loctite, the bottom is tightened, and yeah, so next job is getting those protective panels underneath, and then we go for a test drive. We are done. All the plates are back on the bottom, motor mounts are in, and gearbox mounts in. So here we go. Going down. Job well done. Goodbye.